All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to take a look at Gradelink during this webinar. For those of you who didn't get a chance to look over the initial emails that were sent out, this is going to be about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, could be as long as an hour. And we're basically going to try and take a look at numerous different things within Gradelink today, spending some time really looking at a lot of what Gradelink can do as terms of a service for your school. So just to get and give you guys a timeline, we're going to take a look at everything from communication tools to online enrollment. We're going to look a little bit at financial options, and of course we'll get into the data management, the grade book, report cards, those sorts of things that people are always interested in taking a look at. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to go ahead and send them over via the chat feature. At the top of your screen, you should see what looks like a little speech bubble, like from like a comic or something like that. Go ahead and click on the little speech bubble, and you're going to be able to send me any questions that you have during the course of the informational webinar, rather. So go ahead and send me anything over if you have any questions. If you want to go ahead and kind of save your questions and maybe ask me in private, I will be sharing some of my information later on, so you'll be able to email me or call me directly if you're interested for more information. I'll share that with you guys kind of at the end of the conversation. You guys can reach out to me if you have any interest in the system, or if you just have questions. We'll kind of get to that later. But without further ado, I want to go ahead and get started here. So we're going to be taking a look, like I said, at kind of a comprehensive look at Gradelink today. We're going to see quite a bit of what it has to offer. So let's take a look at everything from, like I said, communicate all the way down to taking a look at some of the other kind of more gradebook related features and things like that. We're not going to get a chance to take a look at everything in Gradelink today, but I'm going to do my best to cover a lot of what the admins, teachers, and even a little bit of what the parents would see when they log into the system. So keep in mind that we won't be able to check out everything. We're going to do our best, see as much as we can. All right, so without further ado, I actually want to get started here by just highlighting that I'm actually logged in as an administrator in Gradelink right now. Okay, so that means basically that I'm a full administrator. So I can see everything that there is to see in the system as a full administrator. There are other staff types that you can go ahead and utilize. Limited administrator is a major one. And this is actually an administrator who does have some access to Gradelink's administrative capabilities, but we can pick and choose their permission levels. So if you have a nurse and you need them to be able to access contact and medical information but nothing else, that's a limited administrator. If you have a registrar who can access communication tools, online enrollment, and financial but nothing else, that's another limited administrator. So we can work with you on that. There's also teacher accounts, of course, and they just have access to the classes you put them in charge of. And then below that would be, of course, parent and student accounts as well. So keep in mind there's a wide array of different staff types that you can utilize. But what we're looking at right now is a full admin account. So I have access to everything in the system right now. And by default, I'm actually on the Communicate tab. Now, this is both how Gradelink communicates with you guys, but also, kind of more importantly, how you communicate with the population at your school. So right now, we actually have a tool called SmartSend that you can utilize. SmartSend is more direct methods of communication than anything. So first and foremost, you do have email blasting. What email blasting is basically going to allow you to do is, of course, exactly what it sounds like, send out emails through the system. You put signatures in here, you can add attachments, you can schedule out your emails if you want them to go out next year, next week, next month, whatever the case may be. And you can also create these custom groups. And we're going to be talking a lot about these kind of groups and how they're created, but basically certain groups within the system already exist, right? All of your alumni by default is a group. The entire fourth grade by default is a group, right? But if we want to create more custom groups, like let's say all of our Girl Scouts who are allergic to peanuts, that's a very specific group that doesn't exist within the system. But we can define that group. We can put specific students into that group, right? We can make it ourselves and specifically utilize it. So keep that in mind. Teachers are able to use the email blast tool as well, and they're going to actually be able to use their own custom groups too. Okay. Now, if you kind of want to get into more extensive communication features and you're interested in kind of SmartSend Pro, we do have text and voice blasting as well. So text and voice messaging is a premium service. It's only administrative access. Teachers are not going to be able to send text messages or voice messages through the system. This is specifically for administrators to utilize, but it does have a lot of the same features. So you can still go ahead and type out your text messages or record your voice messages online. You can schedule them out ahead of time if you'd like to. And those same groups that we just talked about for the email messaging are going to exist here for text and voice messaging as well. Okay? You should keep that all in mind. Now, these are more direct methods of communication, like I said. We also have indirect methods of communication, such as school news and teacher pages. Now, these are two halves of the same coin here, and these are basically newsletters or mini websites within Gradelink. Okay, we could put pictures on here, we can post videos, we can link to other websites, we can even have downloadable attachments on here. And it doesn't have to be a single page. You can make multiple different posts that can be accessible at any given time, actually. But one of the nice major things here for administration is that this is the home page, really. This is the first thing that anybody who isn't a full admin will see when they log in. So if I'm a parent and I log in, I see this. If I'm a student and I log in, I see this. If I'm a teacher and I log in, I see this. Getting a picture there. So this is the first thing that you can see. You can really make it your own here. Teacher pages are similar. A lot of the same functionality. They get to create their own pages with pictures and videos and downloadable attachments and hyperlinks and all these things. We take it a step further with them, though, because they get a page for each and every class that they teach. So whereas there's just one school news page with multiple posts, you actually have a teacher page, like a home page for yourself, and then for each and every class that you teach, you also get a page. And all of those can have individualized posts as well. So just keep that in mind. There's quite a bit that you can do there. Now, I always stress the only way for a teacher to be able to communicate their pages to parents and students who aren't directly working with them is by sharing it directly. You'll see in the top right corner there is a share button. They can provide links or directly embed these pages onto another website. That's the only way to make it public, though. Otherwise, the only people who can see teacher pages are specifically the students and parents who are working with that teacher in that particular class. So a 7th grader cannot just randomly see a 2nd grade teacher's teacher pages. The last piece of communication that I want to talk about, and again, more indirect than anything else, is the calendar on here. All right, let me find a kind of a busier month here because I know this looks a little. There we go. Now, I want to stress here, there's a public calendar and a staff calendar, and these are managed by the administration. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and create any sort of public event or staff event that you'd like to. Keep in mind that these colors that you see on the screen are completely customized, and all the kind of sub-calendars on the left, like performing arts, sports events, etc., those are all also customizable. So it's not hardwired into Gradelink for you. The public calendar can be posted onto a website. If it updates in Gradelink, it updates in real time on the website as well. The staff calendar, of course, is privatized so that when your staff and faculty log in, they can actually view their staff calendar to see important things like departmental meetings, professional development, things like that. Teachers also get their own calendars as well. For example, if I click on Ernest Hemingway's calendar here, you'll see it pops up with his classes, as well as if he has any events for these particular classes or just for him in general, like if he's going on a dentist appointment on Friday afternoon, he has to leave slightly early or something like that, that'll be on here as well. So not only can teachers make their own unique events, and they can choose whether they're private or shared with their student base, but their assignments will automatically post on here as well. So as soon as a teacher adds an assignment to the grade sheet, it automatically will post onto the calendar as well for everybody, not just for the teacher and the administration, but also for parents and students who log in and view their calendar. They can actually see a calendar view of when their assignments are due. That's an automatic process. All right, so that is just about it for communication tools. I want to move down here to talk about financial a little bit. And just to kind of set the scene about what financial really exceeds at here, Gradelink's financial section is an accounts receivables program. Okay, it's not necessarily going to be a full all-encompassing tool for business management a la QuickBooks or something like that. So if you're still using QuickBooks, I would definitely encourage you to keep doing so. This is not necessarily intended to be a full-on replacement for it. What this is really going to help you succeed at is keeping it all of your funds like tuition, field trip fees, registration, lunch, extended care, yearbook, all these things in one easy place that can be communicated to your parents. So when they log in to check on their grades, it's the same exact place where they're also going to be able to say billing information and download statements and invoices, right? So it's kind of an all-in-one place here. So like I said, you can go ahead and plug in any sort of incidental fee that comes to mind. It's not just a tuition management system. You're also able to put in things like credit memos as well. So if you want to put in discounts or scholarships, it's definitely a possibility for you. Okay. Now to see what a parent would see, I'll click on this online statements button. And this will actually showcase exactly what a parent would see when they log in. So you can notice on the left-hand side, it actually allows you to generate different statements. These could be current activity statements. They could be year-to-date statements, which shows everything in the current fiscal year. Or they could be monthly statements. And you, of course, as the administration, will be able to turn on and off when certain statements go live. So when March is over, I will go ahead and post March up and take February off. Or I could leave February up as well. Some of you guys are probably already ahead of me here. You see this make a payment button. This is a premium service. We actually work with a merchant vendor behind the scenes who does the processing for this. You can go ahead and give your parents the abilities to actually put in bank account or credit or debit card information and actually allow them to pay the school directly online. Okay. Again, much like text and voice, it is a premium service, so just keep that in mind. If you want to discuss pricing, I encourage you guys to reach out to me after the conversation or after the demonstration here. Like I said, I'll be providing you guys with my email address and my phone number. You guys can reach out and get a quote or something like that. All I need to know, by the way, when you get that quote is how many students you guys are working with. So if you want a quote, make sure you send over that information to me. I can get you a quote real quick. You can also set up auto pay plans, though. So as we get back into financial here, you'll notice not only is it one-time fees that Gradelink can handle, but also auto pay plans. These are really good for tuition payments. So if somebody owes you $8,000 in tuition, there's a good chance most people probably can't pay that up front. Just right, all $8,000. So what this has allowed them to do is actually sign up online for automatic recurring withdrawals, just like you might have for like a phone bill or your car insurance or something like that. Similar idea here. Sign up through Gradelink with automatic recurring withdrawals, plug in your information, and you can even set up your own custom plan. So if you want to tell Gradelink pay $800 a month for the next 10 months until the $8,000 is paid off, that's entirely an option. You can even choose the date of when they want it to happen. If you don't want to give that same flexibility to your parents, don't worry about it. You can go ahead as a school and actually make it so you're the only ones who can affect this. So the parents have to go through you to actually set this up. All payments that come in through the system can be managed through the Submitted Payments and Auto Pay Plans buttons here at the top. If I click on this, it'll actually take me to a master spreadsheet where I can view basically every single payment that's come through the system here. And if I click on them, I can learn more about them, reading about the family, the description of the payment ID, and I can also void and refund my payments through here. So because the void date is already passed, I can only refund it. But if it hadn't been, I can void the payment directly through here as well. So again, kind of making it a one-stop shop. Even though we do use a merchant vendor and they have their own website that you can log into, we want to make it so you never have to log in there to manage the information. So a lot of it will go directly through Gradelink, not only for the families, but also for the administration managing on the back end. Now, most of the rest of financial that we haven't discussed so far is a lot of reporting. So you can run billing transaction reports, aging reports, account balance reports. There's different things like specifically for lunch and extended care and things like that. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of different reports you can run. Almost all of them are exportable in either a PDF or Excel format. Even this one we're looking at right now, you can click into the top right and you can export all of the data that you'd like to. So keep that in mind. I want to move away from financial now and talk a little bit about Enroll Me. Now, we've talked about a few of our premium services thus far. Text and voice messaging is a premium service. Online payment processing is a premium service. And now Enroll Me is actually a premium service as well. Now, this is a premium, our last premium service that we're going to discuss here. Everything else that we talk about after Enroll Me is going to be included in the main system. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, what Enroll Me is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to manage not only your re-enrolling families online, but also your new applicants. And we really start from the ground up here. So one of the first things that we want to do if you get started with Enroll Me is collect all of your forms related to enrollment, re-enrollment, and applications. Okay, even registration a little bit too. So collect those forms from you. We'll go ahead and quote it out, and if you agree to the initial setup fee, then we'll go ahead and build all of your forms customized for you right in here. And now we can do anything with that. We can do signature boxes, date boxes, yes or no tick boxes, open text fields, drop-down menus, multi-select tools. You can make mandatory fields, which basically say, hey, you can't move in or move forward with the application unless you fill something out. Right? You can even have them download attachments, or if you want to take it a step further, let them upload their own attachments through here as well. Okay. You can even tie it in with the financial section that we just talked about. So if you want to allow your parents to actually pay their registration fee directly through Gradelink, you can see on here, I've got it set up. So we can make a customized form for this for you as well. They can actually pay their registration fee right through their application. Now, re-enrolling families, they have it easy. They get to log into Gradelink like they normally would to check on grades and attendance and things like that. And at certain times of the year, the administration is going to turn on a re-enroll button. Okay. They click that re-enroll button and they can actually go through the online application. Now, a lot of their information is going to fill out automatically for them. So things like demographic information, birthdays, names, things like that, that's going to autofill for them because they're not likely to change. So they can actually go through a good majority of the application relatively quickly. If they haven't moved or if they haven't changed their contact info, they're going to go through it relatively quickly there. Keep that in mind. For new applicants, it's not quite as easy. They don't have a Gradelink account to log into, and nothing is going to autofill for them, obviously. But we do provide each and every school with a unique link that you can put on your website, set up at a kiosk at the school during important events, even email out to people if you'd like to. This link works only for your organization. So when somebody does the application through this link, it's only going specifically to your school. So people can log on to your website, and if they're ready to apply, they can go ahead and sign up with a temporary username and password. The password is up to them. The username is actually whatever primary email address they'd like to use for communication purposes. And then they can go through the whole application. Whether you're a new applicant or a re-enrolling family, your application is going to go right here into Gradelink. And something that I want to go ahead and actually highlight here is if you look over on the right-hand side with the status update history, it says both started and submitted. Gradelink with Enroll.me starts capturing information on applicants as soon as they start the application. So they don't need to click submit at the very end of it all for you to get the information. If they only get halfway through the application and then pause to take a break and they say, hey, I'll come back to it in a couple of weeks, you still have half of that information. So Gradelink with Enroll.me is actually capturing the information every step of the way. The nice thing about this is if they forget to come back, or if they don't come back for a specific reason, maybe it's because they want to go and apply to a different school or something like that, you can actually know that you still have some of their information in the system. And because they have to sign up with an email address mandatorily, this means that you're never going to lose a lead. You always have some way, shape, or form of contacting somebody. So just keep that in mind. Now, as an administrator, you can choose to receive an email alert every time somebody submits an application, or even sometimes everyone starts an application. You can change your email notifications based on the form status here. So every time you mark something in process or pending, every time something is canceled or approved or rejected, all of these things can trigger different email alerts to the administration. But more importantly, they can also trigger automatic email alerts to the applicants as well. So you can actually write up your own email templates ahead of time that go out depending on form status changes. So for example, every time somebody submits an application, you might have an automatic email go out. Every time somebody's approved, you might have a different email go out. If you reject somebody, you have a different email go out. So this is all kind of proactive and an automatic system to hopefully help make the lives of the administration just a little bit easier for them. All right, that is it for Enroll.me. So we've talked about all of our major premium services, and I'll just reiterate them real quick again. Text and voice messaging, online payment processing for parents, and online enrollment processing. Okay. Those are our 3 premium services. Everything else that we're going to talk about within Gradelink and everything else that we have talked about outside of those things is included in the main system. So things like the school news and teacher pages, the calendar, the email blasting, and even most of the financial section is all going to be included. All right, I want to go ahead and move on here, and we're going to start talking about student data. So I know everyone's excited out there to talk about student data. It's everyone's favorite thing, data management, data organization. Let's get into it. Let's get excited, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and click on a student here, Susan B. Anthony. Now, when I click into Susan's profile, it gives me a nice one sheet of information. So with everything from her birthday and gender to basic contact info, her siblings, her parents, and if I go all the way over to the right-hand side, I can actually see all of the classes that she's in, her grades in those classes right now, and even her attendance totals if I'd like to see that. There's notes at the bottom if you'd like to put any notes in, and up here in the top right, you can see I can actually put a picture of the student. And you might notice that it says 3 of 3. I can actually switch between photos. So if I want to upload a new photo every year to kind of track the student, I can do so. So for example, this might have been Susan when she was 6, and now we have Susan today as a hardened 7th grader. It's been a rough half decade. It's been rough. I want to highlight the tags feature here. Now, tags are really good for 2 reasons. First and foremost, remember the email grouping tool that I was talking about where you can make your own email groups? Tags are directly responsible for a portion of that. So when you want to create your own email groups, what you can do is you can utilize tags to do so. So with Gradelink, I can basically, via the email blast tool, say, hey, find me everybody who's tagged as after school sports. Now Susan is tagged after school sports, and so it's going to put her on that list. If I want to get more specific, I can. I can say, show me everybody who's after school sports and student council, and now we have a very, very specific email grouping list. But tags are going to be useful for that feature. Secondarily, if you're a big fan of custom reporting, tags are your best bet here. What tags are going to allow you to do is you can run reports on these tags. So very similarly to what I was just describing, if I wanted to find every single female 7th grader who's in after-school sports, I could go ahead and run a report on that. And I can even do multiple tags at once. So if I want to find every female 7th grader who's in after-school sports who also has like an allergy to dogs or something like that, I can find that information. Okay. All right. Other information that we can talk about here, there's a contact section. It's exactly what it sounds like. You're just keeping track of contacts related to this student. Everything that you see at the bottom here is all for one contact. So you have plenty of information that you can store about each and every contact related to the student, whether it's phone numbers or email addresses or their permissions or relationships to the student. We have a section for addresses where you can keep track of primary and a secondary address. This is because within Gradelink you can actually have separated families. Keep track of that information through here. This actually allows you to generate address labels as well. So for those of you who didn't know, which I'm guessing could be a lot of you because you guys are all attending here for the first time, more than likely, address and mailing labels can be generated through Gradelink. It pulls from this section. So if you're interested in utilizing the system for that, you will be able to utilize this section. I want to touch on login info really quickly. This kind of piggybacks off of what I was just talking about in the addresses section. Within Gradelink, you can have 3 different accounts related to a family. So there's, of course, the student account, and they can log in and access their information. But there are also 2 family accounts. Now, typically, a lot of families will just share one family account, right? If mom and dad are together and they don't mind sharing information, they'll just use family one account. But in the event where they are separated and it's not amicable, they don't want to have the same login information, we do provide you with the ability to generate a family 2 account. And the Family 2 account will actually be a little bit more personalized because technically you can remove specific things from Family 2. So if you don't want Family 2 to be able to do online enrollment and you only want the financial aspects to be handled by one of the family members, you can do that as well. This kind of prevents people from stepping on one another's toes with enrollment and financial. So if you're using those components, keep in mind that you can actually separate it so that only one family member can access both of those features. The Documents subtab here is actually kind of like a miscellaneous tab. Okay, this is all information that's still important to track, but we didn't really have a place for it on the main tab. So this could be things like religious information, if you're interested in keeping track of that. A lot of private institutions obviously are going to be interested in doing this. You can run reports off of those as well. This could be things like financial assistance codes. Things like reduced or free lunch can go on here. This could be primary language or their English proficiency. So there's quite a few different things that can be put on here. And again, these are things that just didn't have a home on the main page, but that are still very important to keep track of for a lot of schools. So keep in mind that we do have a place for it in documents here. Finally, I want to go ahead and talk about files a little bit. This files page is actually going to allow me to upload files directly from my computer into Gradelink. So directly into the student's profile in here. So you can see underneath the administrative files section, I have a couple of different files here. I can upload them from anywhere that I have internet access from my computer. And of course, any other administrator who has access to this section can log in and download those files if need be. They're easy to remove at any time just by clicking that little trash can button. And I can add new ones at any time as well. There is no bandwidth limit. Each and every file needs to be less than 10 megabytes in size, but you can have as many files through the system as you'd like to. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and actually click on counseling now. I'm going to skip academics because we're going to talk a lot about that later. Don't worry. I want to talk about discipline. Counseling relates directly to discipline. Now, whatever you'd like to call it, discipline, behavior, incident reporting, things like that, this is specifically where we're tracking things that kind of happened within a classroom that are of note, usually related to some sort of negative event, not necessarily a positive event here. So I can input information here about, what happened, where it happened, who was involved, put in some notes here, how it happened, all these different things. Some of this information can be conveyed to parents when they log in as well. We do have discipline alerts that can actually be triggered to the administration when a teacher fills it out, or to parents when anybody fills it out. So if parents are interested in receiving these alerts, they can go ahead and do so. Administration can actually take actions as well. At the bottom of the page, you can see there are actions that can be taken. Now, all of these different things that you see in here, like language and taunting or detention, these are all customized by the school. They're not predefined within Gradelink, and that's going to become a running trend. You're going to probably think I'm a broken record as we go through most of the system here, but do keep that in mind. All right. I want to talk about medical information here. Now, there's a lot that we can address here. I don't want to spend too much time, but keep in mind you can keep track of office visits and physical exams. Those are some major things. You can, of course, keep track of medications that the child is taking, as well as their medical history. Their medical history is going to tell you if they have things like diabetes, asthma, seizure disorders, those sorts of things, information that you'd be interested in tracking, definitely. You can, of course, also, as you can see on here, keep track of immunization records as well. If that's something you're interested in doing, you can actually generate immunization status reports to actually say whether or not the student is up to date on all of their vaccinations and if they're cleared to go through the school based on requirements and things like that. So you can get kind of specific with that as well. All right. Finally, on this section, I want to talk a little bit about prospects. Let me let this load in. Okay. So prospecting, this is kind of a step before Enroll Me. And like I said before, Enroll Me is a premium service. The prospective students section is not a premium service. So keep that in mind as we're going through here. In the bottom right corner of your screen right now, you're going to see this kind of like little form here called the prospective students form. This is a simple form. It's non-customizable, but it is something that you can put on your website or set up at a kiosk at the school or something like that. And this is for people who they're interested in the school. They're not necessarily ready to commit yet, though. They're not ready to apply or anything like that. They're just interested in learning a little bit more about the school right now. Okay. So this is a simple form that basically asks them some of their contact information as well as how they heard about the organization. At this point, once they submit it, it goes directly into this table on the left-hand side. And you can also, very similarly to Enroll Me, receive an email alert every time a prospective student or family fills out this application. Now, above that little form in the bottom right corner is your workflow, where you can put in things like notes and tags. Now, these tags are a little bit different than the tags we've been talking about before. These tags are more marketing-related tags. So why do they like the organization? How do we target them specifically? Right? Oh, they like us because of our location. They like us because of our after-school sports programs, things like that. Okay, well, when we talk to them, let's make sure we're stressing that. Let's send them material that's going to kind of win them over. Let's invite them to a sporting event or something like that because we know that that's what they're most interested in. Now, this doesn't only help on the individual level, but of course, on a macro level, you can know if a lot of people are saying they like your location or a lot of people are saying they like your extracurricular programs, then maybe you should focus more of your efforts on kind of highlighting those just in general, not necessarily just for these specific people, but in general. So this is a good marketing tool to utilize those tags. Below the notes section, you can also see you can plug in things like follow-up date and follow-up actions, as well as closing dates and closing dispositions. So if they enrolled versus if they didn't enroll, if they said, hey, call me back next year, if they just said, I'm not interested, it's not going to work, we can work with you on those things to kind of program different things that can go under those drop-down menus. So keep in mind, again, like I said before, nothing for Gradelink is hardwired in. You can make whatever you'd like to utilize there. Okay. So that, I think, mostly does it for the student section. Again, I see that we haven't had any questions thus far. I'm not afraid to be asked, people. I want you guys to know. Feel free to ask me any questions here. Okay, let's go ahead and move into academics, finally. I know everybody was chomping at the bit here. We're about 30 minutes? About halfway through the total presentation. Like I said, it could go for a maximum of 60 minutes here. So we're going to kind of focus here on our latter half, specifically on academics. Okay, so for all of you people who are just, I know a lot of you are probably out there wanting to learn more about student data management, inputting phone numbers and email addresses and things like that. I'm sorry, we got to move on. But again, feel free to reach out to me. We'll talk more about it. I want to talk a little bit about classes here and how they're set up. Now, I've kind of alluded to this throughout the presentation a little bit, but if you get started with Gradelink, one of the first things that we want to do is collect a lot of your information, a lot of it, because we're going to be building out your database, and we want to make sure that we're really specific with it. And one of the pieces of info that we're going to get from you is actually a spreadsheet. And in the spreadsheet, you can not only put information about your students and parents, of course your staff and faculty, but also your classes as well. So when we get that spreadsheet from you, we want to understand, well, what's the class? What teacher is in charge of the class? What grade scale does it utilize? And when we talk about grade scales, does it have GPA? If it does have GPA, how does your GPA work? Is it a normal 4.0 scale? Is it a 5.0 scale? Do you guys use 10.0? What's it look like for you? And when we talk about grade scales, is it the ABCDF scale? Is it OGSN scale? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is it your own? Do you use like APXQ? I don't know what that could be. But if you utilize that, we want to make sure that we're getting that information so we can build it into the system here. For schools who are interested in using standard-based grading, don't worry, Gradelink has you covered there as well. Not only can we set up a standard-based grade scale, but we can also import all of your standards into the system, whether that's Common Core standards, state standards, district or diocesan standards, or if you as an organization, an independent organization, have your own unique standards, we can go ahead and get those in as well. No limitations there. If you're interested in building a standard-based report card, let us know. We can build you one of those as well. Gradelink fully supports standard-based grading in that sense. Now, once the classes are set up, that's finally the teacher's time to shine. They're going to be able to get in there and start working on creating different parts of their classes. And what I want to do with you guys here is actually log in as a teacher to kind of showcase, how we're going to be working on things like assignments, lesson plans, and the grade sheet. So bear with me here as I log in as a teacher. I'm going to log in as Ernest Hemingway. I don't know if I have the credentials to log in as Ernest Hemingway, but he's very talented. Now, when a teacher is first put in charge of a class, let's say it's language arts, 7 at the top here. A fitting class for Ernest to teach. Good old Ernie. The first thing that they're going to do when they're put in charge of a class is set up assignment types. These are things like classwork, homework, tests, essays, those sorts of things, right? All they have to do is put in the title, and then they can put either a percentage weight, or if they want to weight it just based off of points, they can do that as well. They can also make specific extra credit assignment types, or you can see here you can drop the lowest grade in a particular assignment type. That's pretty common for things like tests or quizzes. Now, once these assignment types are made, they can actually start working on their assignments. So let's just go through together, and I'll show you how I would make a normal assignment. I'm going to make an assignment called, let's say, essay on, what sort of essay should it be on? I don't know. We'll just say A Farewell to Arms. That's a book he wrote. We can go ahead and put in any description as well if we'd like to. So maybe you can just say, see attached prompt. And over here, I can actually upload an attachment. So if I have a prompt that I've written out in like a Word document or PDF format, I don't want to have to retype it in here or even just copy and paste it. I'll just put see attached prompt, and parents and students can actually download the file that I've uploaded through here. Now this is an essay, so I'm going to go ahead and put essays in here. If I'm using standards, I can go ahead and select them from here. And as I hover over them on the top right side, I can actually see exactly what other assignments are already covering this standard. That's kind of nice as well, just to have it all in one easy place here. If I'm not using standard-based grading, this won't even show up, so don't worry about that. Now I'm also going to have to choose how I want to grade the assignment. Is it a percentage? Do I want to do points? And if so, out of how many points is this going to be? Or is it a letter grade? In my case, I'm just going to say percentage. If I teach multiple versions of this language arts class and I want to copy this assignment over to my other classes, I can click Copy Assignment and actually copy it over into any of my other classes. Interestingly enough, Ernest Hemingway is actually, I guess, a lot more well-versed than we might have ever expected, because he's also in charge of a math class, science class, and a Spanish class. Who would have known? We can also add it as a template to our collection. And what this means is we want to make teachers' lives very, very easy, right? So next year, when they basically have to recreate their assignments and things like that. Instead of having to start from scratch and type everything out again, they can just save the assignment into their collection, just like you would save a file onto a computer if you wanted to pull that file up again next year, right? Just to make teachers' lives a little bit easier. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit save and go to Gradesheet. Okay. So as soon as we post it onto the Gradesheet, it goes live for everybody. It means when parents and students log in, they can now see this information. They can click on it to read more about it, that description that we typed in and things like that. We're going to be able to see all of that. Okay. If I'm ready to grade it, I can grade it for one student by clicking into the individual cell or by clicking grade in the top and actually grade the full assignment for everyone. Now, let's say everybody did pretty good, actually. Most everyone got an 80% on this. What I can do is I can click these little blue arrows and it'll apply to everyone. Okay. And then I can make adjustments from there. Maybe Abe Lincoln, he got 100. He's an overachiever, 100%. Bobby Hope, he's kind of the class clown, a little bit of a comedian. He'll still turn out pretty well, I bet, but I mean, he didn't do so well. He got a 50. And then Amelia Earhart, she just didn't even show up. She has not shown up to class in a long time. We don't know where she is. Right, so we can give her an absent here. I can leave comments for everybody as well. Let's say good work. And I can do the same thing, drag and drop it down. Make any adjustments that need be. Apply yourself. Excellent work, Abe. I can type these things in. Now, if I have things that I use regularly, or relatively often here, I can actually save them into a comment bank. This comment bank is unique to me as a user, so other teachers are not pulling from the same comment bank. It's anything that I'd like to utilize. You can say here, ask questions when you don't understand, more effort, maybe turn in Friday by half credit. Click submit. And there we go. All the grades that we just put in have now been applied here. So you can see here, essay on a farewell to arms that we just created now has all of those grades that we just put in. And it also has automatically affected the finalized grade on the right-hand side. Okay. If you need to make any adjustments to grades going back in the past retroactively, you can do so just by clicking the grade button. Or again, if you want to do it for just one student, feel free to click in as well. Now, you'll notice, I'm sure, that there's other color codes on here. One of the ones that we don't have, actually, is there's a blue color code. And blue color codes are actually for extra credit assignments. Extra credit assignments are highlighted with the color blue because we want to distinguish them from normal assignments. That way, if you see a 0% on here, parents aren't freaking out, calling the school and saying, why does my child have a 0% on this assignment? How did this happen? Well, it's an extra credit assignment, so having a 0% isn't bad. So hopefully we'll cut out kind of that interaction a little bit. We also have green on here. You might notice the green color underneath some of our test ones. Remember before when we were creating assignment types, we could actually automatically drop the lowest grade in a particular assignment category. Well, that will be what this is, right? It highlights it the color green to let you know, hey, it's still in here. The grade is still there. It still exists, but it's being factored out of the final grade automatically. Now, if we added another test grade and everybody collectively did worse on that one than they did on any other one, then these ones that are currently factored out will be factored into the main grade, and the new worst grades will automatically factor out. That all happens immediately. It's like a 2-second fast as, not lightning, because lightning is a little bit faster than 2 seconds, but you get the point. Fast is something really fast. Fast as a moving car, something like that. There's also white color codes on here. These are things like absent, incomplete, excused, those sorts of things. Now, again, these are not pre-programmed within Gradelink. They're actually set up by the administration at the school, and it's a school-wide setting that applies to all teachers in all of their classes. What this does is it actually allows you to create your own codes and actually choose how they affect the grade. So for example, if you as an institution want to say that a missing assignment is the equivalent of a 0%, that's up to you. That's a choice that you make. Now, the nice thing about this is that it is school-wide, meaning that one teacher can't say that a missing assignment equals a 0%, while another teacher says that a missing assignment has no impact on the grade at all. It's a school-wide setting, so keep that in mind. Again, if I want to switch through other views, I can do that as well. For example, I'm looking at percentage right now, but if I want to switch over to, let's say, letter grade, I can do that on the fly or switch to points if I'd like to as well. Okay. That's mostly it for the grade sheet. We will come back to this before and talk about it a little bit more before we talk about running report cards and transcripts. But that finalized grade that you guys see on the full right-hand side of your screen, that's automatically going to transfer over onto the transcripts and report cards eventually. So we'll get there eventually, but I do want to talk about two more things before we talk about those sorts of reports. One of them is lesson plans. We had a question here from Dick here. How do you handle attendance, lunch orders, and lunch charges? It's a good question. We're actually going to be covering that right after the lesson plan section. So I was talking about there are two things that I want to talk about before we get into report cards and transcripts. One of them is lesson plans. After that, we'll be talking about attendance, and that'll link up with lunch as well. That's a good question. Good question. So I want to talk a little bit about lesson plans here. Now, lesson plans, if you're familiar with something like Planbook, I think you're going to feel right at home here. There's nothing too tricky, a lot of the same flexibility that you have in that system. You'll notice that at the bottom of the page, there's these different colors for the classes. Those colors are determined by the teachers, not by us. And to take it even a step further, you can notice actually on each and every lesson plan, there are different lesson plan templates, right? So we have lesson objectives, plan, notes, materials, all of these things on the top of the page here. Again, not created by Gradelink ourselves. We can provide a simple template, like a standard template, which would be what you see here. But if a teacher wants to remove, let's say, the notes section and add something new in, they can do that. That's up to them. Every teacher teaches differently. We want to encourage that. Okay. We want to encourage that, definitely. So they can create their own lesson plan templates on here. Of course, you can type in anything you'd like. You can hyperlink it. If you want to add attachments to your lesson plans, that's an option as well. You can also link it up with standards. So we've talked a little bit about standard-based grading thus far. Similar idea here. You can tie in standards to your lesson plan so you know what standards you're covering in this lesson today. And you can also link in assignments from lesson plans to the grade sheet. This is really, really useful for all of your teachers who are trying to get things done well ahead of time. Like I mentioned before, as soon as something goes on to the grade sheet, it's public for everyone, right? What this is going to allow you to do actually is you can store it on the lesson plans and then post it onto the grade sheet when you're ready. So if you're working on your lesson plans 3 months in advance and you're trying to create assignments with them, you don't have to post the assignment on the grade sheet 3 months in advance and have a parent come into you and saying, well, little Johnny doesn't know anything about this assignment. What is this? And then you have to explain, well, yeah, it's not going to really be assigned for another 3 months on here. And then, it just kind of is an extra hassle that we don't want you guys to have to worry about. So what you can do is you can save those grade sheet assignments through the lesson plans, and then when the time comes, simply check the box that says post to the grade sheet. You guys probably noticed already that you can actually leave comments here. John R., for example, left a comment. I believe he's an administrator in the system, John Rockefeller. He specifically said needs more work. It could be because I don't even have a lesson typed up. Lesson plans, lesson is in the name. I should probably have a lesson. I can also add lesson plans as a template to my collection. So just like we were talking about before where we can add assignments to an assignment collection, similar idea here. We can add lesson plans to our lesson plan collection and pull them up again next year or share them with other teachers. Okay. Now right now I'm actually looking at a month view, but I can also switch to weekly views, daily views, list views. I can print these off or save them as PDF files. And right now I'm only looking at 2 of the classes that I teach, even though we've already established that Ernest Hemingway also teaches science and Spanish classes. I've just hidden those right now. I only want to take a look at what I'm doing for math and English today. You can basically turn those off and bring them back in. Now if you're looking to move lesson plans around, definitely not a problem. You can click these little arrows here and you can actually bump them forward, which will bump all further lesson plans forward a day as well. You can extend them. So this lesson plan carries over into the next day. You can back them up if you'd like to. You can repeat them so that they happen, let's say, every second Tuesday of the month for the entire year. That's an option. You can go ahead and do those different things here. You can also drag and drop and copy paste. So for example, if this demonstrative pronouns one over here for math, interesting that a pronouns lesson is in a mathematics class, but it is Ernest Hemingway, so it's all he knows. We can go ahead and actually drag and drop it over here into Thursday. See how easy that was? All I had to do was pick it up and drag it. If I want to drag it back to Monday, I can do so, and there we go. Now it's on Monday again. It's very easy to communicate these lesson plans. All right, that's all I have for lesson plans here, and we're actually going to leave the teacher side behind. We're going to go back over to the administrator section, and now, Dick, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of your questions for attendance and lunch orders and things like that. So let's get into it. Zoom in a little bit here. There we are. So with attendance, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but attendance values are customized not by Gradelink specifically, but by the administration of the school. So you tell us what you need to be able to utilize and plug it into the system yourself. The only two that are mandated within Gradelink are the first two that you see on your screen here, present and absent values. Everything else from tardy to AM, PM absences to, weather or in-service days, things like that, all of those are programmed by the administration. Now, Gradelink can do both daily attendance, which is what we're looking at here. It can also do class-based attendance. Okay, so if you want to take attendance, on a class-by-class basis, like if you're a middle school or a high school, you can do that as well. We also have a check-in, check-out tool, so a sign-in, sign-out feature. This is going to allow students, or rather parents or guardians or even teachers, to sign students in and sign students out at the end of the day. This is really useful for things like PK programs or before and after care programs and things like that, extended care programs basically. Now you can do some nice little mathematical equations with this, very simplistic ones of course. You could say, for example, that 4 tardies equal an absence. We can get that all lined up for you so that on report cards it'll total it up and actually show an absence for you if you have 4 tardies. So things like that can be customized as well. And to answer a little bit or speak a little bit to Dick's question here about lunch orders and lunch charges, you can see on here I actually have 2 fields called lunch order and lunch received. Now how you set this up is completely up to you, but lunch order would be, in this case, a method of tracking how many people, of course, ordered lunch today. Now you can have multiple options. You can do hot lunch 1, hot lunch 2, cold lunch, milk, things like that. You can make 4 different fields if you'd like to for these attendance sheets. In this case, lunch received is actually the charge. So lunch received is actually sending a charge over to the financial section. This is an automatic process. So if you mark somebody down as lunch received today and you click submit, it sends a little notification over to the financial section to let the financial section know to charge that particular student $5 for lunch for the day, or however much it would be, whatever your dollar amount is there. It's also, as we saw in the student section, going to be able to check with that student's account to see if they have a financial assistance code tied in with them. So that's what I was talking about before with reduced or free lunch options. Before Gradelink applies the charge to that ledger, it's going to check with the student's account and see, okay, are they reduced lunch? Are they free lunch? If they are, it'll automatically adjust when it puts the price on there. So it's all automatic. This happens all behind the scenes for you in a matter of seconds. Any and all attendance fields can be actually tied in with the financial section. So it's not just lunch. You could create something for extended care, or realistically, any sort of attendance value can be tied in with financial if you'd like for it to be. And again, you can make whatever kind of ones you would like here. So I have plenty of schools that I've worked with who, like I said, they don't just have lunch ordered and lunch received. A lot of them will have hot lunch 1, 2, 3, cold lunch, milk. And all of those could trigger different financial kind of triggers over to the financial section for the family. There is a comment section as well. These comments are specifically shown to parents and students, although of course administration and teachers can use it for communication purposes as well. But do keep in mind that parents and students, when they log in to view their attendance, will be able to read those comments. Administration and teachers can both affect an attendance class. So if teachers submit their attendance for the day and the administration needs to update it, like a secretary in the office or something like that, they can do so. It happens back and forth in real time, so you guys aren't going to be erasing what the other person did. You're just going to be adding on to it, basically. Dick had a question of who checks the lunch received box. It's an administrator section. So lunch ordering for families does not exist. There's no way for them to log in and say ahead of time that they want to get lunch. The day of, a student can say they want to get lunch. Or if the family does tell you ahead of time, you can add attendance for the future. So you can mark down who's actually getting lunch a week from now or something like that if you have the information. But the people actually affecting the attendance section are going to be either the teacher or the administration of the school. That's a good question. All right, I'm going to move away from attendance here. I do want to talk a little, and just real quick, actually, one last thing. There are attendance-based alerts as well. We talked about discipline alerts to families. Families can also choose to receive attendance alerts every time their child is tardy or absent. They can also receive grade alerts. So if they want to get an alert for low grades, high grades, either on assignments or in the class in general, they can receive those alerts as well. Just keep that in mind. All right, we do have just a few minutes here. I want to go ahead and talk just a little bit about different reporting options. I want to talk about transcripts and report cards, and we'll talk about transcripts first really quickly here. Now, I've talked a little bit before about how we want to collect a lot of your information during the initial setup process. Transcripts and report cards are no different. We're going to ask you if you have transcripts and report cards to send them over to us so that we can best replicate them within the system. We have about 10 different templates for report cards. We have a couple for transcripts as well, so we'll work with you to get everything going, everything set up that you need to have set up. You're going to have quality control over the entire process, of course, being able to ask questions and things like that. Dick had a question, can those grade alerts be automatic? It's an opt-in feature. I'm not sure how to necessarily answer that question. It is automatic. If a grade is entered into the system, it triggers the automatic email alert. It's not something that people type up. So if like a low grade is put in on a test score, then the parent automatically receives the email alert, but they have to opt into it. It's not something that is automatically applied to the account. So I hope that answers the question there. As far as transcripts are concerned, though, like I said, we do build them out from the ground up. If you're looking to make any major changes to your transcripts or report cards, it's a good time to do it because we're going to be starting from scratch regardless, trying to build everything for you. So if there's any major changes you'd like to make, you can let us know. But transcripts are fairly straightforward. I mean, it's going to showcase everything related to what happened in all of the students' classes throughout different, terms of the year. So whether or not you're on semesters, trimesters, quarter, whatever it might be, it's going to display that information here. Now, how this information gets on transcripts and report cards is kind of harkening back to what I was talking about for the grade sheet. So with the grade sheet, we saw there were those finalized grades. I said we'd come back to it a little bit. When those finalized grades are done and finished and you're not going to be basically adding any new grades in to adjust it, Gradelink has a feature called concluding a class. When you conclude a class, it just basically means the class is over, no new grades are being added, these are the finalized ones. As soon as you conclude the class, automatically it transfers over that grade onto the report card and transcript as a finalized grade. You can, with both transcripts and report cards, show in-progress courses. It's definitely possible, but keep in mind that when you're ready to do finalized grades, you're going to conclude that class, and it'll automatically post those onto the report card and transcript for you. No extra work needs to be done for you. On transcripts, you can also see I can put information such as tests, so test scores, awards and accomplishments. I can keep track of graduation requirements or class ranks, quite a few different things that I can do. And if I do have students who actually come from, you can see up here, at the top here, view, transcript, add grades, those sorts of things. I can actually, if I have transfer students, I can add their past grades and things like that onto my transcript as well. So that's going to be a possibility. Transcripts are easy to print out, or you can save them as PDF files. It's also possible to allow your parents and students to generate their own unofficial transcripts online. So it's not official like this. It can't be used for anything, but it is a nice way of allowing them to see in one easy place all of the classes and all of their grades and GPA based on everything they've taken. A viewer here asked, are you going to discuss registration workflow from course creation and details to class creation to course request and finally student enrollments? There's no registration piece within Gradelink. Gradelink is not an auto scheduler. There's no way for parents and students to log in online and say, these are the classes that I want to take, and then have it auto-populate or things like that. When you create a class, and I showed the manual process, we went into the classes section. You can type in your class information. Populating students into that class is a manual process, and there's no way for parents or students to log in online and say, like I said, I want to take these classes specifically. So we're not necessarily at that point yet. It's not a full registration tool. That's why when I was talking about Enroll Me, I was kind of saying it's an Enroll Me tool, an application tool, a little bit registration, but it's not a fully fledged tool there. And without an auto scheduler, a lot of it's a manual process. So keep that in mind. Course creation usually comes down to just manually typing in the name of the course, the teacher in charge, what grade skills are being utilized, things like that. Dick had another question. Can parents be auto-enrolled in their opt-in functions for grade alerts? No. Well, not en masse. I mean, you as an administrator can log in as any parent account that you would like to. That's a feature for administration. So if you'd like to, you can do so. Log in as the parent, and you can opt them into those email alerts. The problem is that it's not done en masse. So like I said, this is something that you would have to, log into each and every parent account or each and every family account and basically just say, yes, they want to receive these grade alerts. Right now, it's not necessarily possible. The reason that we do so was a conscious choice. There's a lot of ifs and buts and questions related to what's considered spam and what isn't. And spam is, there's a lot of illegalities and legalities and legalese related to spam and culpability related to spam and all these different things, all these complicated legalese measures here. So we just have it be opt-in rather than opt-out. That way we protect not only Gradelink, but of course the school itself. Like I said, in a lot of cases, there are legal cases that can be made about what's considered spam. So if a parent were choosing to say that this is spam that they were opt into without having ever agreed, that's kind of a problem there. So again, you can do it manually if you'd like to yourself for each and every parent, but by default it's turned off and they have to opt in rather than opt out. We have just a few minutes here left. I want to go ahead and pull up report cards, just a couple of them on the screen here. Sorry, I'm kind of rushing through here at this point, but I want to make sure that we're covering basically everything that we can in the system here with just a few minutes that we have left. If you do have further questions, I'll try and stick around for just a little bit afterwards and answer them. Or like I said, I'll provide you guys with my contact info and you can email me or call me with more, more specific questions if you'd like to ask them. Just really briefly here, I want to showcase just a couple of different examples of report cards. Like I said, we have about 10 different templates. We set kind of the framework for them, but you guys are really going to be the ones who are populating it in with different information on here. You can put different information basically related to comment codes, written comments, behavior, work habits. If you want GPA to show up on here, all of that's possible. You can print off report cards, and I'm going to switch over to another one here. You can print off report cards or save them as PDF files, or of course, automatically post them online so that parents can actually log in either on their phone or tablet. We do have a free Gradelink app for parents and students, or if they're on their computer, they can just click a button that says download my report card, and they can access that report card directly through their device. And not only is it easy for them, it's actually easy for you because you get a report that's going to show you who's opened the report card and who hasn't. It's kind of like a digital signature, a digital footprint, if you will. And again, you're just seeing, I showed 2 different report cards here. Again, we have about 10 different templates. So we're fairly confident that we can handle basically any type of report card that you need us to build, whether it's bifold, single sheet, trifold, standard-based, any of those things. You can go ahead and handle that. All right, we're kind of coming to a close here. So I want to go ahead and thank you guys all for coming here. I want to share some of my information with you guys really quickly here. So I'll pull it up actually on a little notepad on the screen. My name again is Taylor. You can reach me at either taylor@gradelink.com, so just my first name at gradelink.com. That's going to be my direct email address. Or if you want to give me a call, you just want to ask some questions, my direct line is 949-258-9877. And that's 949-258-9877. And I encourage you guys to reach out, whether it's just to ask questions or just to learn about more of the things we didn't cover. We didn't talk about a lot of things in Gradelink. So progress reports, we didn't talk a lot about volunteer hours. We kind of addressed the sign-in, sign-out tool. We didn't talk about that too much. And then kind of more complex reporting, some of the things that we can do with reporting in the system, whether it's grade reporting, attendance reporting, enrollment reporting, things like that. We didn't really get too into that. So if you have questions, I definitely recommend that you reach out to me. Feel free to ask anything that you have to kind of get some more information. If you want to learn a little bit more about quotes, like I said, or want to get a proposal or something like that, reach out to me as well. All I need to know is what features you're interested in. So if you're interested in some of those premium services, as well as how many students you guys are working with. It's always useful for me to know right off the bat how many kids you guys are working with, because then I can go ahead and make a custom quote for you right off the bat there. If you know anybody else, either in your own staff or at a different school, who might be interested in sitting on board with one of these webinars, we do have them weekly. I believe next week's is on Thursday, so you can go to gradelink.com/webinar and actually sign up for a webinar if you'd like to. It's very similar to this. Sometimes we cover a little bit different things, but they're generally the same. Just keep that in mind. But otherwise, I want to go ahead and thank everybody for joining me today. I hope I was able to answer a lot of your questions. And if I wasn't, again, please feel free to reach out to me either to schedule a personal one-on-one conversation, or we can get a personal demo going for you where we'll take a look at the system, specifically how it might relate to your organization. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining on board. It's been a pleasure working with you. Bye-bye.